Hello everyone, welcome to Learning Literature with Purba. In today's video, we are going to talk about psychoanalytic criticism, which is a very important literary theory. We are also going to look at Sigmund Freud, Freud's three parts of the human mind, and Freud's three elements of the human personality: id, ego, and superego. So if you haven't yet subscribed to our channel, then do subscribe to it and hit the bell icon so that you never miss an update. Psychoanalytic criticism emerged from the romantic view that literature is an expression of the author's persona. Therefore, psychoanalytic criticism tries to find out the relationship between the state of the mind of the author and the literary work. It also makes the reader think that what made the author create such characters. It also helps us understand why a reader is particularly aligned, why a reader likes certain kinds of works. What is the logic behind it? There is a psychological connection between a reader liking certain amounts of work, and psychoanalytic theory also probes into it. Psychoanalytic criticism helps us in understanding the creative process, the certain happenings in the mind of the author that helps in creating a certain literary work. It also gives us an insight into universal human behavior through characters. So psychoanalytic literary criticism is very interesting and helps us in understanding the author, the characters, as well as the reader who is reading the literary work. Sigmund Freud is the father of psychoanalytic criticism. His most important works are The Interpretation of Dreams, published in 1899, and Uncanny, published in 1919. So first we will look at Freud's parts of the human mind. So Freud divided the human mind into three levels: the conscious mind, the preconscious mind, and the most important, the unconscious mind. And he also gave an iceberg metaphor in order to explain the three parts of the human mind. So first we have is the conscious mind. The conscious mind contains all the feelings, emotions, thoughts that we are aware of at any given moment. Like right now I'm making the video of psychoanalytic criticism. So all the thoughts, feelings that I'm aware of at this moment, that comprises my conscious mind. Next is the preconscious mind. It contains of basically anything that can be potentially brought into the conscious mind. Basically our memory that we can retrieve easily. For example, if somebody asks me what I had in dinner last night, if I just think of it, and my memory will help me in retrieving that information. So this memory of what I had in dinner last night is stored in my preconscious mind. The preconscious mind only helps students in cracking exams, because whenever the student sees a question paper and the questions, immediately the student can retrieve that answer from his or her memory that is stored in the preconscious mind. Lastly, we have the unconscious mind. It is the reservoir of feelings, thoughts, urges, and memories that lie outside our conscious awareness. It contains certain things that are unacceptable to us, that are very painful, that are traumatic, such as anxiety, fear, childhood trauma, guilt. All these things are stored in the unconscious mind. Freud explained the three parts of the human mind through a beautiful diagram of an iceberg. So according to Freud, the tip of the iceberg is our conscious mind. Next, the little part below is the preconscious mind, and the largest part of the iceberg that cannot be seen is the unconscious mind. And a human being's personality, what a human being is, the unconscious mind controls it completely. Now we will look at the three parts of the human personality given by Sigmund Freud: id, ego, and superego. It is the pleasure principle. It is present in us since our birth. It is a primitive and unconscious part of our human personality. Its motive is to fulfill our pleasures. Now a baby, when the baby is born, the baby cries whenever its needs are not met. If the baby is hungry, the baby will cry and the mother will immediately feed the baby. This is because of the id, the pleasure principle. So it is the primitive and the most unconscious part of our human personality. Next we have the ego. The ego is the realistic principle. It balances the id and superego. And lastly we have the superego, which is the moralistic principle. It starts developing at around age 5. And the goal of superego is to make a human being live according to the norms of the society, to follow the morals and values of human society. So the superego is like a very, very strict teacher, and the id is like a baby. So now it is the job of the ego to strike a balance between the id, the pleasure principle, and the superego, the moralistic principle. One more important thing, both the ego and the superego, they are located in the conscious, the preconscious, and the unconscious mind. Now, for example, somebody is dieting, and that person is really following a strict diet, does not want to put on weight, and at late midnight, suddenly that person feels like having a chocolate cake. So this is the id, which is telling the person, telling the girl that have a chocolate cake right now. Now the superego, which is the moralistic principle, the strict teacher, the superego will say, how can you even think of having a chocolate cake? You are dieting. So follow it. So now the ego will try to strike a balance between the id and superego by saying, it's fine. If you're feeling like having chocolate cake, it's okay. Have it in the morning tomorrow and have a small piece of chocolate cake. That's okay. So this is how the ego, which is the realistic principle, will balance between the id, the pleasure principle, and the superego, the moralistic principle. The key to a healthy personality is the balance between id, ego, and superego. A person with an overly dominant id can become impulsive, reckless, and also criminal. A great example is Macbeth. So Macbeth has an overly dominant id. He's governed by his pleasure principle, and that is why we see that he takes some very impulsive decisions and he becomes a kind of a criminal by killing so many people just to be the king of Scotland and to keep the throne to himself. A person with overly dominant superego will be moralistic and highly judgmental and can take wrong decisions. A great example is Hamlet. Because we see that Hamlet, because he's so moralistic, when he sees that Claudius is praying, he does not kill Claudius at that time. And due to that, the entire tragedy happens where so many innocent people dies, and later Hamlet also dies. If only Hamlet would have killed Claudius when he was praying, after Hamlet has the proof that Claudius has only killed his father, then the entire tragedy could have been avoided. So Hamlet is a character with an overly dominant superego. So when a person has a balance of id, ego, and superego, that person is very, very balanced and there is no problem. But if somebody there is that imbalance between id, ego, and superego, either a very dominant id or a very dominant superego. If the ego is not able to balance between the id, if the ego is not able to balance between the id and superego, then certain complications in human personality develops. So that was all about today's video, where we discussed psychoanalytic criticism, Sigmund Freud's parts of the human mind, and 3 elements of the human personality. I hope you found the video helpful. If you found it helpful, then do like it and share with your friends. I'll be back very soon with a new video on a literary work or a literary theory. Stay tuned to our channel and also stay connected with us on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you so much for watching.